Welcome to the Deep Dive, the place where we take complex research, tear it apart, and then, reconstruct it into actionable knowledge designed specifically for you.
That's the goal.
We are just constantly flooded with information about nutrition, aging, the latest diet trends, but honestly, most of it is just noise. It's distracting us from the fundamental biological truths.
Our mission today is to cut right through that noise. We're synthesizing a pretty comprehensive stack of research on the core science of metabolism.
Yeah.
We're moving beyond just the anecdotal evidence and really focusing on the underlying machinery from the ultra-precise 24-hour cellular clock that controls our daily function to the microscopic hormones that dictate hunger. And this is a big one, the functional integrity of our muscles as we strive for longevity and really for independence. That's it, exactly. Today's deep dive is titled Synchronizing Your Health: How Timing, Fuel, and Muscle Drive Metabolic Longevity. We're talking about optimizing health for the long game.
This is especially for those of us focused on maintaining vitality and strength, ensuring that our later years are defined by capability, not by decline.
Right.
The goal here is to provide some clear aha moments about optimizing your fuel for sustained energy, managing satiety, and of course maintaining strength. It's about moving beyond simply what we eat to when we eat and how our body most efficiently processes that energy to fight off that age-related decline.
Exactly. For anyone who's focused on, let's call it functional metabolic health, the kind that translates directly into sustained energy and physical capability.
Which is everything.
It's everything. It's the cornerstone of independence as we age. And this deep dive will reveal 3 interconnected key pillars. The biochemical case for certain fuels being, well, superior. The strategies for achieving genuine hormonal control over your appetite, and the necessity of aligning our diet and activity with our inherent biological clocks.
So if you've ever wondered why you feel energized one day and just completely sluggish the next.
But the answer is probably in understanding these 3 pillars.
Okay, so let's start with a really foundational debate in nutritional science, one that dictates so much of how we think about long-term energy. The prioritization of fat versus carbohydrates.
Right.
For decades, fat was completely demonized, but now there's this consistent, persistent push in modern biochemical research to prioritize lipids, fats over carbohydrates for long-term health and efficiency. So why the reversal? What's going on here?
It fundamentally comes down to basic physics and evolutionary reality. The source material defines this under the umbrella of thermodynamic efficiency and storage density.
Okay.
The human body is an evolutionary machine. It's built for survival and efficiency, and lipids are, by definition, just the most efficient way to carry energy around.
But we always hear that carbohydrates are the quick, easy fuel source, the preferred source for the brain and muscles. Why does the research argue against that being the optimal long-term strategy?
Because of the density differential. This is the first and honestly the most striking point. Lipids fat molecules provide 9 kilocalories per gram. 9. Now you contrast that with carbohydrates and protein, which both provide only 4 kilocalories per gram.
So less than half.
We are talking about more than double the energy density packed into the exact same mass. It's not even close.
So if we're thinking like a biological system that needs to carry fuel reserves efficiently, fat is the clear winner, just on a pure caloric basis. But the storage mechanism, that's where the difference becomes genuinely dramatic, isn't it?
Absolutely. The weight advantage is what separates the 2 fuel types, both physiologically and, historically. You have to imagine the evolutionary context.
Right.
A body needed to carry large amounts of energy for periods of scarcity, but it still had to remain mobile enough to hunt or, escape danger. Storing that energy efficiently was absolutely paramount.
Let's use the figures from the sources to make this difference really tangible for people.
Okay, the sources illustrate this dramatically with some storage calculations. So to store a massive but absolutely conceivable reserve of 100,000 kilocalories.
Which is what a moderately overweight individual might be carrying, right?
Exactly. To store that, you would only need about 11 kilograms of adipose tissue. That's pure stored body fat.
Just 11 kilograms? That could power you for weeks of activity? That is an astonishing feat of energy concentration. It's the definition of weight efficiency.
Now compare that to the alternative, storing that same energy as glycogen. Glycogen is how we store carbohydrates, and it's heavily hydrated.
Meaning it holds onto water.
A lot of water. It binds about 3 to 4 grams of water for every single gram of glycogen. So to store that same 100,000 kilocalories as hydrated glycogen, you would need approximately 66 kilograms of total mass.
66 kilograms.
Yes.
Versus 11 kilograms for the identical energy capacity. So you are carrying 6 times the mass if you rely on carbohydrate storage.
X times.
When you put in that context, it completely reframes the entire discussion of fuel selection. We're not designed to carry 66 kilograms of wet carbohydrate just to power our long-term needs.
Precisely. This efficiency explains why fat is the body's evolutionarily preferred weight-efficient energy reserve. Our cellular machinery, when it's metabolically healthy, is optimized to access and run primarily on that dense, stable fat reserve.
Especially during prolonged activity or, fasting.
Exactly. For the learner who's focused on functional mobility and vitality in later life, minimizing unnecessary physiological mass while maintaining high energy reserves it's key.
Okay, so that's the mechanical, the thermodynamic case for fat. But the second major point raised in the materials is the hormonal advantage. And this is where it really affects your daily energy levels. Lipids minimize the insulin load. Why is low baseline insulin the true metabolic game changer for longevity?
It boils down to one word: accessibility.
Okay.
Insulin acts as a powerful hormonal gatekeeper. When you consume pure lipids, the resulting insulin response it's negligible. And this is a critical physiological freedom. When we keep our baseline insulin levels low, we unlock the body's ability to continuously and easily access its own stored fat reserves.
The process known as lipolysis.
Lipolysis.
Exactly.
And this free, continuous access to our stored fuel is what researchers define as metabolic flexibility.
That's the optimal state. Metabolic flexibility is the ability to seamlessly switch without feeling hungry or fatigued between burning the fuel you just ate and burning your body's own substantial fat stores for sustained energy.
It's like having a powerful hybrid engine that can just tap into its reserve tank effortlessly without you even noticing.
Perfect analogy. Now, let's look at the metabolic consequences of the high carbohydrate approach that's been so prevalent in modern diets.
Right.
A high carbohydrate diet, especially one rich in refined carbs, drives these rapid blood sugar spikes. To cope with this, your pancreas has to release rapid, frequent, and large amounts of insulin.
And if this pattern is repeated throughout the day, day after day,
It leads to chronic hyperinsulinemia, constantly elevated insulin levels.
and if that hormonal gatekeeper, insulin, is constantly elevated, it effectively slams the door shut on lipolysis. It prevents us from accessing that massive 100,000 kilocalorie reserve we just talked about. Correct. Insulin is the most potent inhibitor of fat breakdown, period. So your body can no longer easily access its own fat reserves, even if they are abundant.
So this creates a state of enforced dependency on constant carbohydrate intake.
Yes. You burn through your quick glycogen stores, insulin is still high, you can't access fat, and your body immediately signals hunger for the next carbohydrate refill. This is the notorious blood sugar roller coaster that defines chronic low energy and weight gain.
That truly explains why someone who is overweight can still feel perpetually hungry and low energy. They're functionally starving for accessible energy because their own insulin levels have locked up the internal vault.
It's a total inability to switch fuel sources, and it's physiologically draining. But beyond that, the sources point to another major longevity benefit of a lipid-centric metabolism. It is considered cleaner.
Cleaner, what does that mean?
It means it dramatically helps you avoid what is termed glycation-mediated vascular damage.
Okay, we need to unpack that technical term, glycation. What is happening at the cellular level, and why does a high sugar load accelerate aging through vascular damage?
Glycation occurs when sugar molecules, specifically glucose, spontaneously bind to proteins and lipids without an enzyme helping. Think of it like sugar literally sticking to and caramelizing the proteins in your body.
And this forms these harmful compounds, advanced glycation end products,
Wow.
AGs.
Right, AGEs,
Mhm.
a very appropriate name given their role in aging.
Seems so.
They are. When these sticky sugar products form on key proteins like collagen, which gives structure to your blood vessels, they compromise the structural integrity and the flexibility of those vessels.
Damage is probably worse in the most delicate areas.
It's particularly acute in the delicate linings of your arteries, contributing to chronic inflammation and hardening of the arteries. This is a significant factor in the development of chronic age-related diseases.
So by minimizing the sugar load and that resulting insulin response, you are inherently protecting your vascular integrity. You're minimizing the structural stickiness that drives aging and chronic disease. It's an investment in the long-term health of your entire circulatory system.
Absolutely. The research suggests that optimizing your fuel choice, Leaning into the thermodynamic efficiency and low insulin impact of lipids is a primary strategy for promoting vascular health and metabolic flexibility. And those are non-negotiable for anyone seeking sustained vitality and functional independence decades from now.
Okay, let's unpack this next segment, which I think transitions really smoothly from efficiency to control. If bioenergetic efficiency, that 9 kilgram advantage, is one half of the equation, the other half has to be control, specifically appetite control.
Yeah.
Because you could be eating the most theoretically efficient fuel, but if you're constantly fighting hunger, the strategy is just unsustainable.
Exactly.
So we need to understand how fats and proteins affect our feeling of hunger and fullness, or satiety.
Appetite regulation is arguably one of the most complex and, let's be honest, often frustrating aspects of modern health. It is not purely about willpower. It is fundamentally managed by a complex interplay between your central nervous system, which integrates all the signals, and a set of peripheral gut hormones.
Right.
We can categorize this system as the gut hormone triad, constantly balancing the signal for hunger versus the signal for satiety.
Okay, let's identify the key players in this triad. What are their jobs?
We'll start with the main hunger signal, ghrelin. It's often called the hunger hormone, colloquially.
I've heard that one.
Ghrelin is primarily released from the stomach lining, especially when your stomach is empty, to initiate feeding behavior. Its plasma levels will peak right before a scheduled meal.
So ghrelin goes up to say, hey, seafood now, but then when we eat, it should drop rapidly.
Exactly. Suppression of ghrelin is directly linked to the sensation of feeling full and satisfied, or satiated. And critically, the research emphasizes that meal-induced ghrelin suppression requires a prompt insulin response.
Which brings us right back to our insulin discussion from part 1. If someone is already metabolically compromised, their insulin signal might be erratic, making their ghrelin control less reliable.
That's a key connection. Now, on the satiety side, we have the two main anorexigenic or appetite-suppressing peptides, GLP-1 and PYY.
GLP-1, that's glucagon-like peptide 1, and PYY is peptide YY.
Right, and these are released lower down in the intestine, in the ileum, and the colon in response to the arrival of nutrients.
I often think of them as the chemical receipt for eating. Once the nutrients hit the lower gut, the body sends out the signal that the job is done.
That's a good analogy. GLP-1 and PYY are co-secreted, and they have really powerful functions. They induce satiety and signal meal termination. They're telling the brain, stop eating, we have received adequate fuel.
And doesn't GLP-1 do more than that?
It does. GLP-1 also slows gastric emptying, which prolongs the feeling of fullness and helps manage blood sugar. It's a key player.
So we've got ghrelin saying go, and this powerful duo of GLP-1 and PYY is saying stop. How do our core macronutrients, fat, protein, and carbohydrates, differentially stimulate this delicate hormonal system to give us that crucial feeling of sustained satiety?
Well, the research on macronutrient impact is highly differentiated. When we look at fat's role, some studies show that high-fat meals increase GLP-1 and PYY release more robustly and for a longer duration than other meals.
So fat provides a robust, but maybe delayed and sustained satiety signal.
Exactly, which is critical for reducing the frequency of eating.
That really challenges the old diet myth that you need to be constantly snacking or grazing because fat is somehow less satisfying. It appears to activate the long-term stop signal quite effectively.
It activates the signals released deeper in the small intestine, which naturally take longer to be stimulated than the immediate gastric signals. But in terms of pure, powerful appetite suppression that affects overall calorie intake, protein's potency is arguably the highest. Protein intake is universally recognized as key to regulating appetite and optimizing body weight because it strongly stimulates both GLP-1 and PYY release.
Is the mechanism of this protein-mediated satiety purely hormonal, or is there some other component related to how it's used?
It's multi-layered. Hormonally, it's potent. We know, for instance, that administering PYY to mice that were genetically modified to lack it.
PYY null mice.
Right. It reversed their tendency toward obesity. That just highlights PYY's critical role in body weight regulation, especially the type released in response to protein. But protein also requires more energy to metabolize, which increases thermogenesis. And its structural nature means it takes longer to process in the stomach, contributing physically to fullness.
So if your goal is hormonal control and weight management, protein is the #1 lever to pull to maximize those satiety hormones. What about the role of carbohydrates here?
Carbohydrates are essential because they are the major food source that acutely raises blood sugar, triggering the insulin response needed to suppress ghrelin.
The hunger hormone.
The problem lies with simple, fast-absorbing sugars, which cause those dangerous blood sugar spikes. The ghrelin suppression they provide is often rapid, but then it's followed by a rapid rebound.
Which contributes to the feeling of needing to eat again soon. That's the classic carb craving.
Precisely. A piece of white bread provides quick ghrelin suppression, but because it is metabolized so fast, the signal quickly returns.
Okay, so that makes sense. But the sources note an essential interaction point here, right?
Yes, and this is critical. When high-fat meals, or even just fat, is consumed alongside carbohydrates, it dramatically slows the absorption rate of those carbohydrates.
So it acts like a buffer.
A very effective buffer. This leads to a more gradual, less sudden rise in blood sugar, minimizing the negative impact of the spike and providing a more sustained state of hormonal equilibrium.
That's a critical insight for meal construction. It's not just about minimizing carbs, but pairing them strategically if you do eat them. A pure carbohydrate load is metabolically disruptive, but buffering it with fat and protein creates a much smoother metabolic curve.
The goal, as the research suggests, is to consume a blend of macronutrients to optimize that satiety response and blood sugar stability. And of course, complex carbohydrates, particularly those rich in fiber, are also beneficial.
Because they physically delay gastric emptying.
Right, which allows those crucial, deep-seated satiety cues like GLP-1 to reach your brain over a longer period.
This moves us directly to the third point in this section, linking appetite control to the non-negotiable requirement for muscle health. For the learner focused on longevity and functional independence, protein is a dual asset. It controls hunger, and it maintains physical function.
The necessity of protein cannot be overstated, especially for the aging body. As we move into the discussion on age-related decline, maintaining muscle mass is a foundational requirement for vitality. The sources stress that sufficient protein intake is not just an aggregate daily goal.
It's per meal.
It needs to hit a threshold at each meal. Specifically, 25 to 30 grams of protein per meal is considered crucial for optimizing muscle protein synthesis.
That is a very specific, actionable metric. Why is it so important to hit that target at each meal, rather than just, say, eating a massive amount of protein once a day at dinner?
Because muscle protein synthesis, the anabolic or building phase, is regulated by an acute dose-dependent signal. If you eat 10 grams of protein, you don't fully activate the machinery. If you eat 100 grams at dinner, your body can only process and utilize so much for synthesis at one time.
So a lot of the excess is just oxidized for energy.
Exactly. Hitting that 25-30 gram threshold provides the maximal signal required to activate the anabolic pathways, and spacing those signals throughout the day is the optimal way to maximize muscle upkeep and fight age-related loss.
So the body requires these repeated, strong anabolic signals throughout the day to sustain muscle mass. This sustained protein intake helps combat the age-related challenges we're about to discuss, ensuring the body has the building blocks not just to feel full, but to maintain the physical capacity that defines independence and your quality of life.
Now we transition to the specific physical challenges that really define aging. We're focusing on the highly problematic, synergistic relationship between excessive fat accumulation and the insidious loss of muscle. For seniors, metabolic health often hinges entirely on maintaining functional muscle tissue.
Let's define the threat we are analyzing here. What exactly is sarcopenia, and when does this decline in capability truly begin?
Sarcopenia is defined as the age-related progressive loss of skeletal muscle mass and functional strength. And it's not just about looking less muscular.
No, it's about function.
It inevitably leads to decreased mobility, a reduced capacity to perform daily tasks, and a much higher risk of falls. The decline in muscle mass often begins shockingly early, around age 30.
30.
But the functional decline accelerates significantly after age 60, with individuals losing approximately 3% of their muscle strength every single year.
3% annual strength loss after 60 is a powerful metric. It suggests that if you wait until retirement age to address this, you're already fighting a serious uphill battle against a relentless clock.
And it's a multifactorial process. It involves genetics, chronic inflammation, reduced activity, hormonal changes.
And this process is severely compounded when it's combined with elevated body fat. This leads to what's termed sarcopenic obesity or dynapenic obesity.
Right. These terms describe the combination of low muscle mass or low muscle strength alongside elevated fat mass. And this combination is particularly dangerous for longevity because fat accumulation actively damages the muscle tissue.
So this isn't just about having too much fat and too little muscle. It's about the fat actively interfering with the muscle's function. How does the body fat cause this interference?
It creates a vicious, self-perpetuating cycle. Elevated body fat adiposity triggers fat infiltration into the muscle tissue itself. This process is called myostatosis.
Myostatosis.
Think of it like a fine marbling that appears in meat, but instead of making it tastier, it makes the muscle metabolically useless.
So the fat is literally sitting between the muscle fibers, physically impeding their function.
More than just physically impeding, this infiltration contributes to a cascade of negative molecular effects: chronic, low-grade inflammation, increased oxidative stress, and, most critically, mitochondrial dysfunction.
And when muscle mitochondria, the tiny powerhouses of the muscle cell responsible for burning fuel, are dysfunctional.
Then the muscle tissue becomes less efficient and, crucially, less sensitive to insulin.
Exactly. This mitochondrial failure worsens insulin resistance, which then further inhibits muscle protein synthesis because the muscle cells can't properly receive the anabolic signals.
The result is a cycle where fat accumulation actively poisons the quality and function of your remaining muscle, accelerating the decline. We see this inflammatory cycle as a major mechanism underlying metabolic syndrome-related sarcopenia.
The intervention, therefore, has to be highly targeted to break that cycle. You have to protect the muscle while simultaneously addressing the fat. Let's look at the dietary recommendations beyond just the general protein target. What specific nutritional levers can we pull?
We have to optimize the amino acid profile. The sources highlight the branched-chain amino acid leucine as being absolutely essential.
Okay, leucine.
Leucine is not just a building block, it's a signaling molecule. It acts as a potent activator of the mTOR pathway.
The mTOR pathway, which is often described as the master nutrient and energy sensing signaling pathway. When leucine activates it, what message is being sent to the muscle cell?
The message is a resounding grow and build now. Activating mTOR is the primary mechanism that initiates and sustains muscle protein synthesis. By ensuring you have adequate leucine intake, especially coupled with that 25-30 gram protein threshold, you maximize that anabolic signal.
That makes leucine the critical trigger. But you mentioned a second benefit related to that vicious cycle of inflammation.
That's right. Beyond just the anabolic signal, leucine supplementation has also been associated with a decrease in serum levels of TNF-alpha,
Tumor necrosis factor alpha.
which is a key pro-inflammatory cytokine driving that whole myostatosis cycle. So high-quality protein, rich in leucine, simultaneously stimulates growth and reduces the inflammatory burden that is attacking the muscle.
That dual-function anabolic and anti-inflammatory makes it an indispensable nutrient for aging bodies fighting sarcopenia. We should probably revisit the role of carbohydrates here too. If older adults are already battling what's called anabolic resistance, should they be cautious about consuming simple sugars alongside their protein?
Absolutely. The research advises significant caution. The sources note that high carbohydrate co-ingestion can exert negative effects on muscle protein turnover in the elderly.
Why is that?
The strong insulin spike from the carbs, especially simple sugars, might interfere with the muscle's ability to efficiently utilize the amino acids. It exacerbates that phenomenon of anabolic resistance, the reduced capacity of aging muscle to synthesize protein in response to nutrients.
Essentially, the high insulin signal may be telling the body to prioritize immediate sugar processing and fat storage, thereby distracting the muscle cells from their rebuilding job.
Exactly. It creates a sort of metabolic traffic jam. Now, let's talk about some natural supplements that directly target this inflammatory and oxidative stress issue. This is a popular topic for health-conscious people focused on longevity.
For sure.
The sources point specifically to certain plant compounds, flavonoids and polyphenols, citing examples like resveratrol and quercetin. Their beneficial effects are attributed to their powerful antioxidant and anti-inflammatory actions.
Which helps mitigate the damage caused by the myostatosis cycle.
Right, but the mechanism goes deeper than just general antioxidant cleanup. They activate a specific longevity pathway.
And what's that?
They're shown to activate a molecule called SRT1, or sirtuin-1. This is key because SRT1 is a major energy sensor in the cell. It senses low energy states, which mimic fasting or intense exercise, and directs the cell to focus on repair and maintenance rather than growth and storage.
So activating SRT1 is like telling the cell, resources are tight, clean up the metabolic junk, and secure the foundation.
Precisely. In the context of muscle health, SRT1 activation inhibits muscular atrophy. It stops the breakdown, and it regulates the expression of antioxidant enzymes. This suggests that compounds like resveratrol and quercetin may be specifically useful for protecting against obesity-induced sarcopenia. They're directly targeting that inflammatory intersection of fat and muscle decline.
So if diet and supplementation provide the necessary fuel and cleanup signals, then exercise provides the necessary structural demand and molecular therapy. What does the research tell us about optimizing physical activity for metabolic longevity, especially regarding muscle health?
The research is really clear on this. Intensity matters. It matters significantly for fighting age-associated decline. While walking is beneficial for cardiovascular health, high-intensity exercise, whether that's resistance training or high-intensity endurance work, is generally preferred to counteract muscular decline when you compare it to low or moderate intensity exercise.
Why does intensity confer such a superior benefit at the molecular level?
The key molecule stimulated by intensity is PGC1 alpha.
PPAR gamma coactivator 1 alpha.
Yes. High intensity and endurance exercise dramatically increases the expression of PGC1 alpha. This molecule is essentially the master coordinator of mitochondrial biogenesis and function in the muscle.
So PGC1 alpha is the signal that says we need more, better, and stronger power plants in this muscle cell.
Exactly. It drives the creation of new mitochondria and improves the function of existing ones. This results in improved overall metabolic fitness, an enhanced capacity to burn fat efficiently, beta oxidation, and it protects against mitochondrial disorders and actively prevents sarcopenia. It's considered a vital molecular target that can alleviate both metabolic inefficiency and functional muscle loss.
So let me trace that chain. You lift heavy or you sprint hard, which activates PGC1 alpha. PGC1 alpha then remodels the muscle cell, making it more resilient, better at burning fat, and protected against the oxidative stress that drives aging.
That's the molecular mechanism of training. Now, let's quickly connect this back to hormones and the overall system of anabolic resistance.
Which, again, is the reduced capacity of aging muscle to synthesize protein even when nutrients are present, a major hurdle in aging.
It's a loss of sensitivity. The positive effects of insulin on muscle protein synthesis are diminished in older individuals, so this makes external support and enhanced sensitivity crucial. The sources highlight two potential therapeutic angles aimed at restoring the muscle's ability to respond to growth signals.
And what are those specific hormonal or peptide-based strategies?
First, we have vitamin D. Its role goes far beyond just bone health. Vitamin D supplementation is linked to increased muscle mass, force generation, and significantly improved insulin sensitivity in muscle cells.
Which helps the muscle overcome some of that inherent anabolic resistance.
It does, and the second one is a bit more cutting edge. It's related to the body's own blood pressure regulation system.
You're talking about the peptide angiotensin 1 to 7.
That's the one. Most people know the renin-angiotensin system, or RAS, for regulating blood pressure. Angiotensin II is the vasoconstrictor, an inflammatory component. But angiotensin 1 to 7 works counter to that traditional pathway. It acts as a protective, anti-inflammatory, and vasodilating agent.
How does that help muscle mass specifically?
Angiotensin 1 to 7 has been shown to decrease catabolic pathways, the breakdown of muscle proteins, and concurrently improve insulin sensitivity. By mitigating the catabolic signal and enhancing the anabolic signal, it represents a promising molecular intervention for maintaining muscle mass and fighting sarcopenia. It just shows you how interconnected our circulatory and metabolic systems truly are.
We have established the optimal fuel lipids and protein, and the necessary activation signal, which is high-intensity exercise. Now we move to the final, and maybe the most powerful modern finding when we apply these inputs. Here's where it gets really interesting, because the most precise regulation of our energy management is governed by our internal timekeepers, the circadian clock.
This is the concept of the temporal orchestration of metabolism. We have to remember that the human body is not a steady-state machine. It is fundamentally rhythmic.
Right?
We have the master pacemaker, the central clock, located in the suprachiasmatic nucleus of the brain, the SCN. This is primarily entrained by external light cues, the natural light-dark cycle.
So that sets our general sleep-wake rhythm.
Yeah.
But our metabolism is handled locally, right? In the organs.
Correct. The master clock tells the body what time it is generally, but our peripheral tissue clocks, like those in your liver, your muscle, pancreas, and gut, that's where the metabolic processing happens. And critically, these peripheral clocks are powerfully entrained, or set, by the timing of food availability. This is known as diet entrainment.
So if I start eating a large meal at midnight, I am sending a powerful disruptive wake up and process this fuel signal directly to my liver and muscle tissue.
Yes.
Regardless of what my brain thinks the time is, and regardless of the external darkness. That creates metabolic dyssynchrony.
Precisely. And this dyssynchrony between the central clock, which is aligned with light, and the peripheral clocks, which are misaligned by late feeding, is now considered a significant contributor to chronic metabolic diseases, things like obesity, type 2 diabetes, and dyslipidemia. The circadian clock system ensures the temporal orchestration of all nutrient management, especially lipid homeostasis.
How does the clock machinery specifically regulate fat processing?
The clock uses a complex molecular gear system involving core clock genes like BMAO1 and CLOC. BMAO1 acts as a key transcription factor, a master switch that ensures the rhythmic expression of thousands of genes involved in metabolic processes.
So BMAL1 is turning on and off the genes responsible for fat storage, breakdown, and transport in a predictable 24-hour cycle.
Exactly. The evidence shows that a large portion of lipid species, the various fats and their metabolites in tissues like the liver and human skeletal muscle, display a distinct 24-hour circadian rhythm.
And this rhythmic metabolism is closely linked to mitochondrial beta oxidation, right?
Yeah.
The process of efficiently burning fat for energy.
It is. The body is programmed to store during the day in the feeding window and then shift towards burning and repair overnight in the fasting window.
This means that if we introduce food when the body's internal machinery, regulated by BMAL1, is supposed to be in repair and burn mode, we throw the entire system into chaos. What are the physiological consequences of this chronic dyssynchrony?
When these diurnal rhythms are perturbed due to, say, chronic circadian rhythm disorder, night shift work, or abnormal eating patterns, it leads directly to metabolic disorders. The sources highlight several key functional failures: dysregulation of liver lipids, a buildup of fat in the liver, and significantly, a decreased mitochondrial beta oxidation function.
So late-night eating essentially makes your cells bad at burning fat. The mitochondrial power plants stop operating efficiently because their scheduled rhythm has been broken.
That's the mechanism of metabolic inefficiency right there. The body loses its innate, programmed ability to process and efficiently burn fat when the peripheral clock is broken. The lipids that should be metabolized end up accumulating in undesirable places, fueling that myostatosis and inflammation we talked about earlier.
It sounds like the key to unlocking robust metabolic health, especially for the learner focused on fighting age-related decline, is resyncing the system. This leads us directly to the practical application of chronobiology, time-restricted eating, or TRE.
TRE is all about aligning your eating window with the biological window when your cells are primed to receive and process fuel. The research strongly suggests that the timing of that eating window during TRE is what is crucial for remodeling your plasma lipidome and adipose tissue. It is far more than just intermittent fasting. It is about chronological precision.
Let's dive deep into the specific study outlined in the sources, comparing early versus late TRE. This is where the profound, actionable insight truly lies for you, the listener.
Researchers conducted an exploratory outcome of a randomized trial focusing on women with overweight or obesity. They compared 2 weeks of early time-restricted eating, ETRE, versus 2 weeks of late time-restricted eating, LTRE.
Okay.
And crucially, the calories consumed were intended to be isocaloric, meaning the amount of food was constant, only the schedule changed. The ETRE group ate early in the day, something like 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., while the LTRE group ate later, say noon to 8 p.m.
So same fuel, different timing. What were the tangible biological outcomes?
The results were remarkably definitive, especially in terms of fat management. The early TRE group, the one eating earlier in the day, resulted in significant beneficial changes in 103 distinct lipid species in the plasma.
103, wow.
And this included a noticeable major reduction in undesirable ceramide and phosphatidylcholine classes.
We need to explain why those specific lipid ceramides and phosphatidylcholines matter. Why is their reduction a sign of metabolic health improvement?
Ceramides, specifically, are toxic lipids. They are strongly implicated in driving insulin resistance and cellular stress. When ceramides build up in tissues like your muscle and liver, they inhibit insulin signaling, directly contributing to metabolic syndrome and type 2 diabetes.
So by simply shifting the eating window earlier, the ETRE participants didn't just lose weight. Their body actively cleaned out some of the most harmful lipids that were driving their metabolic dysfunction.
Exactly. This suggests a major positive remodeling of the plasma lipid profile, indicating the body has become much more efficient at processing, utilizing, and clearing fats. It demonstrates chronobiology acting as a powerful detoxification strategy.
And what was the finding for the late TRE group? The ones who ate the same amount of food, but later in the evening, encroaching on that critical rest and repair window.
Late TRE did not show substantial beneficial changes in these key lipid species or classes.
Nothing.
And this is the crucial takeaway. The magic bullet isn't just restricting the eating window. It is aligning that window with the body's natural diurnal rhythm. By eating earlier, we give the peripheral clocks time to rest and reset when they are biologically programmed to. allowing that fat burning and mitochondrial repair mechanism, like PGC1 alpha activity, to fully engage during the night.
That is a remarkable demonstration of how timing itself acts as a molecular lever for metabolic improvement. It reinforces that idea that the principles of functional longevity and energy are literally encoded in our cellular clock mechanism. It suggests that late-night activity, especially eating, is fundamentally working against our programmed biology.
It provides profound validation for the concept of eating with the sun, or at least stopping long before the body shifts into its nightly repair state. For the listener, recognizing that timing is as impactful as calorie restriction is a major insight for reclaiming functional health and combating age-related decline. So, this deep dive into the source material gives us a clear, actionable framework for achieving metabolic longevity and independence. This is especially true as we focus on maintaining physical vitality and strength in later life. It rests on three essential, interconnected pillars that really challenge conventional thinking.
Pillar 1. Fuel choice and efficiency. We have to recognize that the body is optimized for the thermodynamic efficiency of lipids. Prioritizing stable, energy-dense sources minimizes insulin demand and eliminates the hormonal interference that locks up your vast internal energy reserves.
Pillar 2. Hormonal sensitivity and anabolic signaling. You have to maximize satisfaction and ensure your body has the raw materials for repair by hitting that protein threshold, targeting 25 to 30 grams of leucine-rich protein per meal, and using exercise to activate powerful signaling molecules like PGC1 alpha and RT1 to overcome anabolic resistance and clean up cellular stress.
And Pillar 3. Metabolic timing and synchronization. We have to stop working against our programmed biology. Perturbing the circadian rhythm, especially through late-night eating, undermines our ability to manage and clear fat efficiently. The research strongly supports strategies like early time-restricted eating as a direct molecular therapy for improving key lipid profiles associated with metabolic disease.
Remember that sarcopenia, the loss of muscle, is not a passive event. It is actively driven by metabolic dysfunction, specifically that vicious cycle of myostatosis, chronic inflammation like TNF-alpha, and the failure of our mitochondria. By addressing fuel management, hormonal signals, and aligning our internal clocks, we directly combat the decline that robs us of functional capacity and independence.
So we've learned that the physical decline of aging is inextricably linked to cellular fat metabolism and when we choose to eat. Given the powerful effects of food timing on our internal clocks and our fundamental ability to access those deep energy reserves, here is the provocative thought for you to chew on today. If you know that your body is genetically programmed to shift into a crucial fat-burning repair mode several hours before you go to sleep, what small, immediate adjustment to your daily meal schedule could unlock better metabolic efficiency and vitality? What time should dinner really end tonight to give your internal clocks the respect they deserve?
Food for thought indeed, and a powerful mechanism for reclaiming physical independence and energy for years to come.
Until next time, keep diving deep.